November 3rd, 4th, 3:50 a.m., 36 days out. We're getting closer. Cream of rice, 2 ounces cooked ground beef, 93.7, which gives me the perfect amount of fat, and 50 grams of chicken breast. Didn't wake up feeling that hungry today, so I'm almost even more excited to eat this. Feeling good, 158.8 pounds. We're rolling. All right, it's a legs day and cardio. It's a Friday. Let's get it.
All right, we are 37 days out, 36. We're at some point, and at the moment we're going to the gym. It's 4:30. It's a legs day. I'm coming off of a rest session. I feel really good this morning. I think earlier in the week was a little bit more work, stressful stuff, so I didn't sleep quite as well. Now it's coming back. I'm less hungry. Woke up this morning not dying of hunger, same calories. But also another interesting thing, which is, I heard this. We've all heard the expression that the placebo effect is real. Maybe that's not an expression. Maybe that's actually scientifically proven. But it is becoming even more real for me, which is less that whatever the thing is that I've changed is the cause of the change, and rather the change itself causes, which sounds kind of silly, but I think we all understand this intuitively, and it's connecting more emotionally for me, which is switching something up when you've been in a significant routine. At least for me, kind of regardless of what it is, as long as I at least suspect it might help, the change itself seems to help a lot. It could be as simple as me changing my grip on a rowing machine, where then all of a sudden, whoa, it's hitting the muscle really differently. Or in my case, my coach recommended I add a different supplement to my routine, or to my at this stage. And I know that it doesn't actually. I don't want to say it doesn't do anything, but I understand that at best it could supplement. But the little change, all of a sudden, boom! It's like, wow, I'm making progress in this different way. And so I feel that now. And then the big change from this week was, which I think is hilarious. Maybe I should have been doing this the whole time, but I started to put a little bit of ground beef back into my meals. So the way I'd been doing my diet prep, I'd stuck with essentially one protein source per meal. And as I was using things like 93.7 ground turkey and beef and other leaner cuts with red meat and other things earlier in the prep, I would add some egg whites to make sure I got enough protein without going over my fat for that meal. However, it's maybe a month ago I basically switched and was almost always eating chicken breast, because it's relatively low in fat, and I would use olive oil to get up to the amount of fat I needed for that meal. Because the macro requirements for the meal were so low, it was harder for me to get the protein, to get even close to the protein with something else. However, what I didn't even think of was like, wait a second, why not just put in an ounce or 2 ounces of, say, a lean red meat, and then similar of chicken breast to get the same amount, to get the protein required without the fat, without going over fat, without adding something like an egg white, which isn't very nutrient dense. And so yesterday I threw in some 93.7 ground beef, an ounce cooked, so like 1.3 pre-cooked, to several of my meals, and that to me was this magical change where all of a sudden I felt way less hungry, and like, oh great, I'm getting all these excellent micronutrients. Okay, of course ground beef has more micronutrients than chicken, yes, but it's not a significant, you're not going to feel that like day one, but in my mind I am. So anyway, off to the gym. Any small change can be really helpful at this stage. finished our leg session, leg speed, and I'm definitely feeling it. One thing that is new to me is I used to hear people say like, oh, I did a couple of sets of hamstring curls and you know, my hamstrings are totally shot. And I thought, how in the world is that possible? Like I could do lying hamstring curls or seated or whatever, and I mean, sure, I'd feel it, but I never felt like, oh, I couldn't walk afterwards, or, you know, those sort of superlatives. And one change for me in my technique, I mean, a lot of this is just the focus. So I'd say 90% of it is just focus and intensity. So just pushing, gosh, you can push so much harder. You know, talking to myself, Gus, you can push so much harder. But another element, one maybe minor technique element I really noticed today is kind of driving your hips into the pad, or driving my hips into the pad, so that I'm not using momentum. My body isn't moving forward when I'm lifting the weight. And I noticed that when I don't use that momentum, for me personally, I feel it way more in the hamstrings, and a couple of sets of those is absolutely brutal. So it really just even one really hard set, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can now feel the hamstrings, essentially, to me at least, completely isolated. And so then when I push as hard as I can, I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm getting something done. I'm sure I can do more volume, but nevertheless, I feel it on that one set. I don't feel like I even necessarily need to go further. I'll do what's in the plan, of course. But anyway, that sort of small technique adjustment of drive hips into the pad, and with the outcome of that being what I'm trying to prevent is the forward momentum, using some of that kind of movement forward when I'm lifting to take some of the stress off the hamstrings. That said, of course, if you use some momentum and you find it helps, I mean, by all means, like, do that. If I find that tomorrow that actually using the momentum makes it feel like I'm working the muscles more, then I'm going to do that as well. But for now, this is my little tip. It's been a huge help for me. We got some post-workout meal, and Lydia's trying to dig into it, so I can't seem to get her to eat her food, but if I distract her. Meal A here, we've got some sweet potato, 3 ounces of ground beef, 93.7, 25 grams of chicken, so just a little sliver in there to give me 7.5 grams of protein to round this meal out. And then I've got, like 4 ounces of sweet potato and 40 grams of white onion. So we're at 32 protein, 30 carb, like maybe 7 grams of fat. All right, meal B, a little bit later in the afternoon than I'd like, but just finished cardio. We've got some sweet potato, ground beef, some chicken, and some mixed stir-fry vegetables from Costco. Let's go. Olympia. Yeah. It's about 8:30, a little bit later than usual. Meal C, sweet potato, 4.5 ounces, 10 grams of onion, 40 grams of chicken breast, and 2 ounces of ground beef. And man, does it taste good.